Hi, I'm Dread Peveritt Roberts with M Squared Learning, a math tutoring resource. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to learn how to remove fractions and decimals from equations to make solving a tad easier. Ready? Now the first thing I have here is two sticky notes that explain how to remove fractions and how to remove decimals. I will go back through these. There are notes that are available in the link in the description box on my video, so feel free to print these out so that you can actually have them to look at. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to figure out how to remove fractions from our equations. And step number one, we got to find the least common denominator of the denominators of the whole entire equation. Now you notice in our example down here, the directions say to create a new equation with no fractions, do not solve. So we're not actually going through the entire thing, we're just going to eliminate fractions. All right, the first thing I need to do is figure out what is my least common denominator. And you'll see that I have a 3, a 4, and a 1. Lowest common denominator here is going to be a 12. And so then the second step says multiply every term, every single term. So I have I have three terms on both sides of the equation by the least common denominator. If we do this correctly, this is going to eliminate all of our fractions. Now, when we multiply by a 12 on both sides or by the entire equation, don't forget that this is actually a 12 over 1, and we will be using distribution to accomplish this. All right, so our first multiplication then is going to be 12 over 1 times x over 3, and then we'll have 12 over 1 times x over 4 is equal to 12 over 1 times 14 over 1, just in case I need those fractions, but I'm thinking I'm not going to on the right side. Now, we didn't eliminate fractions, but there is some canceling that we can do, so that's what we'll work on next. So in my first term, this is my first term, I have three terms here. In my first term, I can cancel the 3 and the 12. I can reduce those. So taking a 3 out of 3 is 1, and taking a 3 out of the 12 is going to be 4. For the second one, I can reduce the 12 and the 4, so that's going to be a 1 on the bottom and a 3 on the top. And for the other side, there is nothing to reduce, but the ones are going to go away on the bottom because 1 times 1 is 1. All right, so next in our instructions, it says to, let's see, we have to finish multiplying. Sorry, we have not finished multiplying. All right, now multiplying fractions, you multiply tops. So it's going to be 4 times an x. Multiply bottoms, 1 times 1. Oh, good. I got rid of the denominator because dividing by 1 doesn't need to be written. In the next one, we have our 3 times our x on top, 1 times 1 on bottom. And in our last one, 12 times 14 on top is 168. 1 times 1 is just 1, and 168 divided by 1 is 168. So no need to go further with that. Now, this does say do not solve. Normally, we would go ahead and take this a step further, and we would solve for x, but it says do not solve. All right, now the next example is going to be removing decimals from equations. And the first part of the instructions say to choose a power of 10. Powers of 10, 10 to the first, 10 squared, 10 cubed, 10 to the fourth, is going to tell me how many zeros are there. So I either have a 10 or a 100 with two zeros, a 1000 with three zeros, a 10,000 with four zeros, etc. So we're going to choose a power of 10 based on the term with the greatest number of decimal places. So we come down here and we see that I have two decimal places here, only one here, two here, and only one here. So choose a power of 10 according to the highest number of decimal places I have. So since the highest number of decimal places I have is 2, we're going to choose a power of 10 that is squared. So 2 to the second power, or 100. The next part of the instructions say to multiply every term on both sides by that power of 10. So 10 to the second power is the same thing as 100. So we're going to multiply every single term every single term, there's 4 of them, by 100. Now, don't forget, and I put this up here, don't forget that when you're multiplying by a power of 10, all you're doing is moving a decimal point to the right according to the number of zeros you have. So since I have 2 zeros, I'm going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right for all of these. So 1, 2 places to the right. 1, 2 places to the right. 1, 2 places to the right. All right, so when I multiply 100 by the first one, this is going to be 65x. Multiply the second one is 240. The third one is going to be 25x, and the last one is going to be 560. Again, that's an easier, the numbers are bigger, but it's an easier equation to work with because the numbers are all whole numbers. All right, now for the next one, we're going to solve by eliminating fractions. So we actually have to finish these equations by solving, find out what x is equal to. So if you remember from the post-it note, number 1 step says to get the least common denominator. The least common denominator for a 2, a 3, and a 6 is going to be 6. Before I do anything though, I need to make sure that I change this mixed number into an improper fraction. So changing that is going to become 29 over 6. The other two are not going to be any different, and I'm going to multiply the entire equation by my least common denominator of 6, or 6 over 1. All right, and I need to remember that this is going to be done by distribution, multiply by every single term. All right, so I have 6 over 1 times 5 halves times x minus 6 over 1 times 2/3 is equal to 6 over 1 times 29 over 6. Now, let's go ahead and do some canceling while we're at it. The 6 and the 2 is going to reduce to a 3 and a 1. Okay, my 1 doesn't want to stay there. That's a 1. Okay. All right, you get the idea. It's a 1. All right, my 6 and my 3 here are going to reduce to a 2 and a 1. The same thing's going to happen, but now you know what's going on. And the 6 and the 6 are both going to reduce to a 1 and a 1. All right, now let's clean that up. So I have a 3 times a 5 times an x all over a 1 times a 1. All right, so 3 times 5 times x is going to be 15x divided by 1. I don't need that divided by 1. For the next one, I have a 2 times a 2 on top, so that's just going to be a minus 4. And for the last one, I'm just going to have a 29 on top divided by 1, which is the same thing as 29. Now, in the last section, we stopped here, but now we're supposed to solve. We need to find out what x is. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. That'll give us a 33 on the right side, and that'll leave us with a 15x on the left side. And let's go ahead and divide both sides by 15. Now, this looks great because we know that those 15s are going to cancel each other. However, on this side, we need to make sure that we reduce our fractions. So always, 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 always reduce your fraction. And so if I take a 3 out of both of these, that's going to be an 11 on top and a 5 on bottom. All right, let's do an example using decimals. And in our how-to post-it note, it said to find the greatest number of decimals, and we're going to multiply by a power of 10 according to those number of decimals. Now, before I get really started on this, I need you to understand this particular equation is going to have 4 terms. 3 of them are obvious. I've got a term here, a term here, a term here. Those 3 are obvious. This whole entire thing, though, is a term. Just remember that terms are things that are separated by adding and subtracting. So this whole entire term is separated from the next term by addition. All right, so just be aware of that. So I'm going to take the entire equation and I'm going to multiply by 10. And the reason I'm choosing 10 is because there's only one decimal. One decimal is my largest number of decimal places. All right, so in order to do this, then I'm going to move this one place. Remember that this 10 is being multiplied by the entire term. All right, so I'm only multiplying it one time. Move the decimal once here, move the decimal once here, move the decimal once here. All right, so that is going to be a 4. All right, so this first one is going to turn into 4 times 3x minus 2. I didn't do anything with that. plus a 16 is equal to an 8x plus a 40. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and distribute my 4 to both of those. So that's going to be a 12x. This is going to be a minus 8. And then I'm going to copy my plus 16. The right side I'm going to copy. The next thing I want to do is let's take the 8x over to the other side by subtraction. So we can move it. That means that these are going to zero each other out. My 12x minus my 8x is going to be 4x. The next thing I'm going to do is let's go ahead and combine like terms here. This is going to be a positive 8. And over on the right side, I'm just going to have a 40. Next, let's go ahead and add 8, or sorry, undo adding 8. So that's going to be subtracting 8 on both sides. That'll give me a 4x on the left, a 32 on the right. Let's divide on both sides by 4, and I will get an x equals 8. And no, I did not show my work of dividing by 4 here, but you can see what I did there. All right, now I'd like for you to go ahead and pause the video, and I'm going to have you try 2 examples on your own. One of them is a fraction example, one of them is a decimal example. So go ahead and pause, try them on your own, come back and see if you got the right answer. All right, hopefully you've worked that out on your own. Here is the first one. You should have gotten an x is equal to 59 over 60 for your final answer. And for the second example, you have an x is equal to 8. So if you did not get those correct, then please take the time to pause the video and take a look and see if you can figure out where did you go differently. If you're showing your work correctly, you should be able to see where you went the wrong way. All right. Now, some things to be aware of. Um, I would say the most common mistakes are not finding your least common denominator correctly. That's a very common mistake. Another common mistake is not multiplying by the correct power of 10. And then the third mistake, I didn't actually show you on this example video, but the third mistake that I would say to be cautious of is when you're dealing with negatives, you have to be really, really careful about in your multiplying and making sure those negatives carry through the way that they're supposed to be carried through. All right, folks, enjoy practicing. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can leave a comment in the comment section, and I'd be happy to get back to you. Have a great day.